Ah, welcome back. Ah. Welcome back. Nothing to say because we already know where we are. We already know what we're going to do. I'm actually just going to start it. I'm not going to give a whole monologue. I'm actually starting this new video whilst the previous one, number 6, is just beginning to finish rendering and it will be soon uploaded. So I'm already back with enthusiasm and motivation and inspiration even. What I was talking about the entirety of the video last time. Whilst I edited it, I saw that a lot of my voice and tone became monotone because I was just ready to complete that stage. And here we go. This is the journey. It has unlocked. It feels like it has. Because I am just full of motivation and perseverance. I am just craving for that. I'm not going to say anything. Look at the size of this puppy right here. A2. Also landscape. Looks like a whole TV that I have set up here. Look how beautiful that looks. The pure white paper. Oh dear paper, take me on a journey. Again, I just liked it so much. I just want to go there again. And look, now there's 2 hanging. Soon there will be more. And I placed them into little pockets. I got these little archival pockets, which kind of makes them look a little bit like display pieces. Because you can see the little reflection, the glare. It makes them look a little bit like comic booky, like they're wrapped and sealed in this protective layer that kind of makes them seem like they're about to be ready to be sold. Oh, that's the dream. That is the dream. Also, I've seen whilst editing that video. It's the longest one. But there was so much things that had to be discussed in that video. Even though a lot of repeating myself. But a lot of points which had to be taken. I'm going to attempt, which I've already spoken to myself about it, that I either intercept with conversation less or make the conversation which I will intercept commonly, shorter, more straight to the point. If there's stories to tell, stories will be told. But I believe that I need to be more straight to the point. And this is what we're doing. Not only through art right here, which we're refining ourselves, but maybe this diary itself will be able to be more refined and begin to be more delicate and more crystal. That's what we want. We want everything to be as smooth. We want every single second to be cherished, to be important, to be skipped back, to be re-listened to, and to be rewatched. I want to just and hey, I haven't even placed it yet, but I'm gonna place a little introduction at the beginning of the video. This is just to spice it up, get it more into the theme, and we'll see how that looks. A little cinematic shot of my coffee, of the blank paper, of whatever, doesn't matter. Okay, here we go. No need to waste time. And we had the fan going the whole time. What an introduction. We just can't learn from our mistakes at all. Here we go. This is what I was talking about. The visions. That they're beginning to flow naturally. And I got this one vision. Something along the lines of nature. And I've always been intimidated to draw nature. And I've kind of this word, compartmentalized. Look it up. This ideas, every time I had revolving ideas about nature, I've always placed them into shelves within my own head because I thought, no, I don't know if I'm confident enough to express it. This is we're here to venture into the fields of unknown. This is exactly what this is for. This is your whole life journey here that you're trying to accomplish. We're fearful. We need to face our fears. That's exactly what we're doing. So we're gonna do that. My head just wants to do something nature. And we're gonna do that. And we're gonna start. Here we go. Here we go. I see picture. I see picture something field, something tree, something farm, maybe stairs, maybe this little wooden staircase that leads down into some sort of a stream, some maybe porch, maybe farm itself. I don't know, but let's do it. Something's going on here. Tree with some landscape trees, some sort of a trough, some sort of unearthing of the roots within the tree, some sort of a slippage of the earth. Something is going on here. With the fence encasing. And let's keep going. Let's go. Holy. Oh, wow, wow, wow. Viva, viva. That took everything out of me. That completely took me for an exhaustive ride. I love what's going on here with the dark colors, the nature here. Some kind of a path, some kind of bushes, some kind of a tree with tree. This house does not fit, but I was not afraid to experiment. I think I think this one's actually using a lot of my head to see what kind of fits. Woof. Yikes. Ugh. Whew. Okay, I can't. I seriously cannot even comment on anything anymore. I'm a little bit out of breath after this one. This one, and this one I can already tell. I can already tell will actually cause me to come back to it and to rethink a lot of these things, to make sense of what I've drawn here. I need to look at it from afar. I need to sleep on it. I need to really get a good. This is what I've done a piece. I've done a few pieces like this a very long time ago, where I draw the first initial emotion, and then there are empty pockets. Yikes! Even difficult to breathe. So I've done pieces like this before, where I draw the initial emotion, where I truly feel like everything is expressed, like what's going on here with the darker color, with all of this nature here, and I'm actually very pleased with the intention here. But then sometimes the amount of emotion that you may have, this one is very interesting. So it's one of those pieces that once you place the initial and then you have a blank space or blank spaces or anything that may perhaps be unfinished, and it's not to go into the trap of egotistically or impulsively begin to really quickly just try to fill in the gaps, so you can just go not feel any insecurities or any type of anxiety about there being a blank space, that it's not finished, just to scribble in that extra idea. I think that's exactly what I've done with this house, and that'll go. Will confidently admit this was a mistake, because that's what I think I went and did that here, but also with the caveat that I was also experimenting. But that's okay, and I welcome that, and I think that that's okay to sketch out, to deliver ideas. This is from the top of our head, so you are welcome to do this. And what this piece, this initial emotion is doing to me, and I've done pieces like this before, where you are then left with an unfinished story, which then entices you to explore it, go further. Okay, yes, like what else is this story trying to is asking you, and what does it want it to become? And I've done pieces like that where I've drawn a little bit, and then I spent a long time looking at it, and then just trying to fill in the rest of the story, trying to compose things that are right for that scene, that fit along with the narrative of what's being drawn out. And those are those can be a roller coaster because you are looking at it and you have to have an open mind, open heart, and just look, because you cannot go with the impulsive route to just fill in the gaps. You have to listen to it, and you have to have that spirit of confidence that it will come onto you the longer you look. But that does involve for you to use your entirety of your cognitive ability, because you are perhaps just staring into blank space, but this image is playing out. I have not yet allowed this to happen for this image, but I'm just recalling my previous experiences. And I do have other videos, and I'm thinking about maybe if it would be healthy for me to re-upload them or something along those lines, to get a little catch up of the entirety of my story of drawing from the top of my head, or just maybe artistic expressions. Those are very long very long time ago drawings, but that was the beginning of my new way of accommodating art in my life. So they are very relevant, but those are very foundational things, and I only bring those up at the moment because that is what's happening here. And I think with these larger pieces, maybe with these larger pieces that might occur, because I do, as I mentioned in my previous videos, tend to draw at scale, and everything stays the same, so there will be blank spaces. But again, it's not that it's just a bigger piece of paper and you just draw things more bigger, or you just fill in blank space with anything. No, these bigger pieces actually draw out much more effort from you to envision them. So clearly this is my first go after a very long time, and you can see that I am not completely confident too well on here, as I'm not able to fully thresh out this vision that came upon me here to compose the piece entirely. But hey, that's exactly what we're doing. We're trying to learn, we're trying to do that. So then, as we mentioned about the muscle being flexed, about the clearly symbolizing the amount of capacity my muscle is able to affiliate and take up on itself. And clearly it's not that wide-ranging horizon that is able to fill this in. But I think that's great. I think there will be some reflectance upon me when I look back on this. So that's great. I think that's a very positive cut here. So this is gonna be part 1, and we're gonna do part 2, where I think we come back and we finish the composition. And maybe we'll talk through it, and I think maybe this one might be a little bit more interesting. And I think I will end it on a last little note that this actually allows me to talk about more about the art, and not with me finishing individual parts and giving a little introduction when I begin one, which is okay, I think. But then I see why I begin to repeat myself, because I'm just dwelling on the same idea as I spend the majority of my time actually technically composing it. And there is a lot of annotation being placed on the emotion by the way I compose it, in terms of color palettes and things like that, to buttress, to reinforce that emotion that I'm going for. But the lack of cognitive influence and affluence that is required of me to be delivered on this page is minuscule comparingly to the initial stages of the composition. So I think this is where the meat might be, and then I can actually welcome myself to draw out the technical composition of the piece, with slightly less intersections of me chatting, or unless there's some actual affluent ideas. So, okay, I think this is all learning process, which we're very happy about. So I think that's all okay. Yeah, I think I fell into that trap of being perfectionist again, where I want to just do this correctly and don't look back and have a complete strategy. This is nothing like that. And this is but nature, as I said, I was not confident to draw this, but I think we got something here. Okay, I'll cut it here and we'll come back. We'll come back with part 2, and I hope I can sleep on it and actually open my mind and look at it and really just get a whole glimpse of what's going on here. This is nothing like, for me personally, this is nothing like drawing still life or anything like that. This is, every piece is intense, to say the least, as everyone has already been. Fascinating, really fascinating. Okay, all right, that's it. Part 2. Hey, good evening. Here we are. Here we are again. I feel a sense of gratitude right now. I feel a great sense of gratitude. And that is because I'm able to sit down and spend time doing what I really enjoy. And everything throughout the day that you may do, and without thinking that once you complete, you go on to the next and then on to the next, and then you complete your day, and then you see that you have time, energy, wish, inspiration to do the thing that you really want to do, and to receive that. I feel like a lot of time had to be invested for me to get to this point. If it is the comfort, if it is perhaps the stability, to when you can complete the rest of your day and then you can just let go and still have time and all the rest that has been mentioned to progress with something. To not only allow for the necessary things that you do throughout your day to decorate you and paint you as an individual that you then advertise yourself towards yourself, but also to the world, and that you then just stay as for a very long period of time, and only change if external pressures maybe perhaps make you change, but get on the contrary, still find the wish to improve and progress with something, to acclaim onto yourself other accolades. And this is not to do that per se as to just pin medals onto yourself that you have completed something. It is that you do that so you can feel the joy of doing that, but I do not believe it is something that you do it and then you complete it and then you move on to something else. There might be those types of checkpoints throughout this artistic path that I'm on, but the artistic path does not end. I do not see myself completing this, or, well, my whole life, as far as I remember, I used to draw. And I, without thinking or pressure, I keep coming back to it. So, with full confidence, I do not see any other, anything taking away that from me, from spiritual wise, from inspiration wise. So gratitude. I think today the key word is gratitude. And I think with that, as I mentioned when I was first composing this, I'm in a completely different state, as I said right now. The theme of gratitude. I do not want to place myself further onto this piece and finalize the composition. I want to enjoy and bring out what I have already composed. So I think that is what today is going to be. And this will then naturally come out as well. Or maybe I do complete a composition. Maybe I can give more. It's interesting how it might externally appear as indecisive, but it's the words that I say, and once I say them out loud, I get the chance to hear the argument and I am persuaded onto myself. As maybe perhaps just trusting your inner self emotion might not always be concise in the action that you should take. Long form, short term, you can exercise that emotion, that, and then you will eventually get onto that path. But to strategize, I think that is something that requires, at least for me, to say it, or maybe even write it down sometimes. And a plan of action. So I think that's what we're going to do. Okay. I'm going to look at this piece for a bit and see maybe we can think of something. I on purpose avoided eye contact with this piece whilst I put the pastels down and finished the session yesterday, just so I can just do it when I'm fully here. Sometimes when you are away from the chair, away from the easel, and then you look at the drawing from far away sometimes, and then you see some things that you know need to be composed, you instantly maybe get an idea of what that could be, and sometimes it's good, but a lot of times it's a very quick idea, very intuition based idea, very impulsive almost maybe. Just it represents in the state that you are at that moment, as you are maybe rushing, maybe you're not focusing on that, so you're only partially, you are using the correct method of trying to draw out your emotion to fill in this void that is still to be populated, but you're not fully there, you're not immersed completely. So I tend to not trust those ideas convincingly, but they do sometimes tend to draw out maybe some things not to consider, or sometimes they do get good ideas, but that's very rare. So I tended to not have any eye contact and just wait until I sit down, which is now, and we're going to do that. Okay. Okay. Oh. Okay. I'm actually quite... This was actually very fun. This was actually really fun. So I see something new, something refreshing coming out. I placed absolutely zero effort into this. It was just my hand flowing with everything. That was a lot of fun. I still have a lot in me, I believe so. I think what I'm going to do is I'm gonna take a few minutes break. And I think I'm just gonna continue and see where I go. Because this was really fun. And I'll save my comments about me using pastels straight away without any chalk or anything. I think this is just me getting a little bit more used to things, getting a little bit more flexible, more free, not being so perfectionist again. This is just me letting of everything go and seeing where it takes me. I think this is exactly, yeah. Okay, and I think I'll continue that. Okay, that's it. That's me trying to shorten the monologues. But I think I'll cover it up a little bit later at the end of it. But for now, I think that's worthy of a break. Okay. Okay, here we go. That's us back again. And it must have been maybe less than 5 minutes, I think. But I think we're just in that beautiful state of flow, as they say. We're in that beautiful state of flow, and I think we're just gonna keep going. See where this takes us. We're very excited. We're not even thinking about any thoughts or any types of ideas or any points that are not at all present within me right now. I am just in the moment. I think I'm almost envisioning myself being here in this scene. It's a beautiful emotion. I really do enjoy it. Okay, here we go. What if I try to set up from this angle? But no, I really can't. Don't know if I can. Can I? It's a little difficult. Let me try to cut it and set it up from a different angle. How about that? That's a very interesting angle I think I'm going for here. And you can see top down which is actually very interesting. I think we'll try it out. Okay. Okay, let's do a little bit of a transition here. What's this? Okay. So I hope that angle actually will look good. So my easel is almost falling down. So let's fix this up. Okay. Look at that. How about that? Okay. Okay. I think that we're gonna take another little break and keep going. I think so. And see what we can do. Okay. this process of maybe I can give some little bit of insight of what's going on. You can probably, well, I can already tell from my own tone of voice of how undisturbing of my being here. I'm speaking very down to earth, very much just lower tones that do not vibrate me internally and the atmosphere as well. And that's my whole insight. That's all I have to say. Maybe once after this next session, I'll be able to a little bit more develop on the ideas that maybe perhaps might arise later once I see the conclusion of today's drawing. But whilst we're still currently within that entirety of that, within the process, very much so, I think that nothing in my head is really wanting to drift away, and not on purpose, but not want to drift away from this scene that I'm in, and I very much feel like I'm there, and that's very fantastic. So I think that's that. So I'll go take a little bit longer break, maybe this time, maybe 10-15 minutes or so, and then I think we'll jump back in and see what else we can do here. So I think that's it. I think that's the plan. Okay, all right. Okay, we're back. I've heard someone say that discipline, and once you acquire it, it means freedom. And I get that. I get that you persevere through any perhaps impulses, and you're free from those negative aspects, which God teaches you about. And also with that, when you're young, when you're playing, and when maybe you're a child or so, you don't feel like there's any sort of discipline that you acquire, but you are just playing. And you find freedom through that. Well, that's a very common example of how a large number of maybe perhaps individuals wish for that childhood to return. But that's a classic story. But it's not that you need to turn the time back. No such pressure should one put oneself under for such impossible wishes. But what I'm doing here individually, I believe I am playing. And I find a lot of freedom from that. Very strong emotions of liberation. And I've noticed even very, very interestingly, since I've began this diary series, and diary series where I begin to where I'm chatting and I'm talking, a lot of that satisfaction of liberation, and with that a lot of ideas and a lot of parts of my head are beginning to re-unlock. I don't believe I was very locked out when I started, but I thought that then. And I realized that, yes, unfortunately, I was. And a lot of things that once you unlock yourself, you begin to do again. And what I want to say is, I'll use that analogy as a child again, where you want to soak up as much things and everything begins to become interesting again. Well, that's kind of what is occurring, where at that moment I did not believe I had prejudices against a lot of things, but yes, there were, and against negative and against positive as well. So I learned that time after, just whilst I was taking my break, I placed some music on, while making another tea, and tea this time, and just relaxing for a moment. And I've intrinsically, just as I maneuver this pastel here, my hand maneuvered to select music from a long time ago that I used to be a fan of. And what does that say? That I had started to, at least in this moment, started to enjoy the melodies that I enjoyed when I was younger. And not for nostalgia, but but as maybe as it's very apparent, the type of music that you play reflects largely on the type of emotion that you're in. And maybe this kind of has some relation to that I played music from when I was really young, or at least melodies that resemble that age. And that may resemble the emotion that I am in now, at this moment. I do not consider that I'm behind on any of this playfulness or any of such emotions that I'm speaking of. Not in the sense of deprivation, not at all. At least when I began, not at all any of such emotions, except for the wish to do art. But through me continuing with this, it's clearly a pattern that I did not know what I did not know. So that is the case, I believe. That is the case, I believe. So we're gonna sit for another last session tonight. And I've placed my jumper because my body's telling me that, well, you've done good. Now you can cozy up and begin thinking about the nightly slumber. As in this scene that we're in, we are still there, but in the woods that we are in, the sun is beginning to set and it's telling me it's time to go home. But of course, we're still to get back home. We're far away from home here. And on the way, I believe we can capture, forage last little aspects from this environment until we visit again. So hopefully we can, again I use the word forage, some mushrooms, some berries, maybe some souvenirs to place on the windowsill from where we are, from nature. So we're gonna do that. We're going to try to travel back appropriately and not to switch off completely whilst we're still there. Because if you arrive here spontaneously, spontaneity tends to disallow any preparation. And I don't believe we packed in a tent and a sleeping bag to secure ourselves a pleasant nightly sleep. As currently the scene is vibrant and sunny, we are not yet aware of what the nights are like here. So we're going to do it justice and treat it as a pleasant walk through nature. And it's time to go home. Okay. that's enough. I probably could progress even further than this, but I feel like I should sleep on it for a little bit so I can make sure I can filter out a lot of other things. I don't want to finish the piece just for the sake of finishing it because I'm within that momentum. It does deserve a certain amount of respect, and respect by not necessarily that it has to be completed over a certain amount of time, but so that with a fresh mind, with fresh eyes, I can return and make sure I can coalesce everything in here that it wants to be. That I believe that the composition has been completed, and the idea here is explained. So that's that. So I believe I think I've said everything that I wanted to say, and I'll end it very shortly, and I'll, as I did prior to starting this little session, specifically just this recording right now, not the two that I've done before, my little breaks that I've taken, but I'll zoom in to show some of the details and progress. I think that was very healthy and very informative, because I did not capture none of that within my previous pieces, and I think this would do a lot of justice if I did. But okay. Okay, I'll do just that. Okay, so this is the end of this session, and I'll come back for the next one. Okay. Hello. We're back. We're back again. We're back the next day. Oh, there we go. Oh, I have another one. Switching off all the fans. Okay, so we're back the next day. So we're gonna continue. We're gonna come back into this drawing here, and we're gonna come back into the nature that we have composed here. We'll see what happens. Hopefully we are welcome back. As I'm speaking, in this moment, I feel virtually coming back to the scene here. So that's what we're very keen to be a part of, and to perhaps talk a little bit about the composition itself, since we had a chance to sleep on it, and it being now basically fully composed, with some amendments coming today, as I will retouch things and we'll see where it picks up from here. But clearly we have a primary path, which is then leading us to a fence, which then may draw us out into a wider plane. And that's it. I feel like I did not want to describe the composition overly, as I'm very keen to not define anything still, and still see where this takes me. So I think that is the plan. I anticipate a fairly medium length session this evening, but that might change. But I think once we pick up our pastels, then we will be able to understand where we sit regarding that. So I think I will waste no time and go forth. I think that is what I'm going to do. Okay, so maybe perhaps a closer shot, and maybe a shot that is higher up, so maybe more visibility to the drawing can be seen. We'll readjust once if we have any comments, but I think that's how we're going to do this. Okay, maybe a little bit like this. Okay. So what we want to do now is to retouch this tree right here. Maybe make it a little bit more organic, as at the moment this symbolizes a lot of seasoning in terms of this tree seems to be, as it would, it seems like it has withstood a long period of time, and by the thick base of the trunk here, and we maybe want to show that, as perhaps in this side with more irregularities to bring forth its age. So I'll try to touch that up in that sense. Okay. So I think that's worthy enough as a pause to then maybe take a break and reassess and come back and place in a few other little components just to place the image slightly even more into context. And from drawing this image, few ideas came up with the base here, the path, something that could lead the path even more, which I think it's reinforced enough, but it could be slightly more. So what I'm possibly thinking of supplementing is some kind of activity here. And then I think that would then build the image to its completion. Something along those lines. Okay, I'll take a 5-minute break and then I'll return. Okay. Okay, we're back after a very short break. I think it's because there we go. Okay. So we're back after a really short break, and I think we see the full image now. We are very aware of what we're going to place here, but I'll keep that a secret for now, as maybe that will then begin to spin things once I actually start drawing it, and I don't want to define it straight away. So we're going to place a few things here, a few things there, and hopefully that will be the entirety of the composition. Okay. We are noticeably not inputting as much, but I think I'm justified to say that everything that I would like to say can be symbolized through the image. And I think all of my ideas and words are present here. So, unnecessary at this moment. There will be an annotation of me annotating the piece later on, as in personal reflections and so on. But at the moment. I think anything that I would like to say, I'm able to portray it through the visual sense. So we're going to continue. Here we go. Okay, so we're going to take another break. Seems like all we're doing is just taking breaks. But I tend to actually like to do that. It seems to be a correct form of a method worth of work for me, that I do an on and out type of drawing method. That's what I'm trying to say, is where I throw out maybe half an hour, maybe 40 minutes, and I'm really enthusiastic. And then when I feel like there's a little bit of a swerving off from energy, I tend to go maybe stretch my legs, or just kind of take a break a little bit, and then I tend to come back. And those breaks can vary from lengths, but then I come back and I do another 30 minutes or so. And throughout all of that time, I feel like I am present at my peak levels, if that's correct for me to say. So I feel like I'm a little bit swerving off right now, and when I feel like that, I do not like to make very important decisions, especially when we're still thinking about final compositions, as we are really trying to think what to populate in this maybe zone right here, as everything else I feel is well suited, and similarly with this fence here too. So we are thinking about what could be placed into here, and I believe again I do know what that may be, but I do not want to portray it at the moment. So I will go take another little short break and come back to perhaps touch this up for the final time in terms of composition. So we'll do exactly that. Okay, all right, see you very shortly. So I think what I've decided to do instead is I won't have another session, but that is because I am contemplating about this right here. Contemplating if it is necessary for me to place anything there to express the further emotion or to provide more immersion into this drawing. Because the worry is that I might overcrowd the composition, and certain things might begin to become lost, which I don't want to do. I want to have a major focus on these trees, and then the fence that's leading the horizon, and then with the background trees slightly in the distance being visible, as that is the thing that the eye wants to catch as the further destination. And I think that the justice with this slither of fence here might place enough detail for the base of the drawing here to not detract the eye too much, but still give it that sense of immersion that there are things that, whilst walking through this scene here, you are transitioning through a certain field. Because if I didn't have that, then there's an equal amount of attention being placed on the base and also the foreground there, the background, which again also doesn't do justice. And also, if I'm to mirror everything, to have a tree there, a little slither of fence there, and also maybe something along the lines there, is that maybe a little bit too simplistic of a composition strategy? It may be, it might not be, but I think I would like to sleep on it and finalize this piece tomorrow. And maybe then I'll get a better idea and a better sense of what the true calling of this piece is. Yes. And I do see there's some little touch-ups to be done, but for the overall sense of it, I believe that it may also maybe almost complete. Not entirely, but I think tomorrow we'll be able to finalize and also do the reveal. And that is actually extensively exciting. Not as for my previous video where I was not excited for the reveal, but for this one I am. But I think we'll touch on that tomorrow when I do the entire evaluation of the piece. So I think therefore I think as to follow up my yesterday's analogy of me staying in the scene here, and not with the wish to not switch off completely and detract. I think I have packed my tent and my sleeping bag, and I think I'm going to exactly here make a little camp and sleep there exactly in that spot to see if anything arises. And we don't know, maybe perhaps we're gonna be placing our head, as you know, all the time when you place a tent, and placing tents and sleeping in tents I have a lot of experience in. And as nature is not an unfamiliar place, which I've spent a lot of time in, and it always tends to be that you place the tent seemingly in a very pleasant spot, but when you are then to put your head, there's always rocks and logs and maybe almost like a drop in the terrain where your head is almost completely, well, downed and dropped itself. So, well, makes the camping interesting, but maybe that's what we're gonna be sleeping on. And if it is, maybe that's a sign that maybe one of those things could be here to populate the rest of the composition here. But I think besides that, I'm extensively content with this piece so far, but we'll give our last evaluation tomorrow. So with that, I think I'm going to call it, and dream very well this evening, as I think I have accomplished all that I set out for, with this being a reasonable stop and halt to the drawing, as maybe it's asking for something or maybe it's not. I'm a little bit unclear, but I think that the sensible thing is for me to step back and come back to it later to find what the answer is. So, okay, we'll do exactly that. Okay, so I'll see this drawing and I'll sit back down tomorrow. Okay. Hey. Here we are again. Oh, 1 second. Whoa, okay. So, we got to this stage. We thought that we are almost at the very end, and we are. And I took a day to look at it, get some final thoughts, final ideas. And then we fell a little bit under, well, I got a little bit sick. So I took a day off. And only one day. After that day, today, I told myself that I stopped believing in being sick, so I am fine again. So we're gonna finish. Wait, 1 second. What's going on here? Okay, all right. So we're just gonna go at it and finish it up, put some final little touches in there, see what we kind of have with maybe some of these little aspects on that side. Although, to be honest, I'll make a final decision about it, but that's it, I think. Okay, short and sweet, let's go. I think we're done. Quick and easy. I think so. Okay. I think I'm falling into that trap again where I just overdo things. See if I overdo this piece, it'll look really out of place. That's not what we want. Is that okay? I think that's okay. Yeah, that's pretty much there. Just a little bit more. This video is just is becoming longer just by me walking up and down and fixing this little bit, but I think you just have to call it, because we'll just fall into that trap again, and nothing will begin to look in its right place, and we'll begin to lose the emotion of the drawing, as we always say, for the sake of technicality, just so it looks aesthetically in order. And that's not really what we want from our drawings at all. How's that? I think that's fine. Is that fine? Is that fine? That's it. I called it. That's it. I can't. That's it. That's it. Okay. All right. Yes. A quick like 1 minute observation. Nothing. I think I'll get it. So once we do the reveal and once we actually get a chance to put it on the wall and we'll give an actual evaluation of the piece, I think that's where we'll go into a little bit more detail. Yeah, I think plenty of things to say. We'll try to keep it short. We'll say what we want to say. See, I'm backtracking on a lot of things that I say I need to do, but it's good that I find that I'm able to recognize when I'm falling into these certain traps that I commit to not dwell myself into. First of all, perfectionism. That was half of the video, and in the other half I managed to just sort the rest of the painting out. And now the second is me saying that I'll keep it short, but then I'll say I want to say what I want to say. No, you always say what you want to say, and that's it, full stop. Not to keep it short, not to do it any other way. We are talking for our own benefit here. So it's an ability, it's an opportunity to thresh out all of the thoughts that are within you. So that was just to say that. That was just a very interesting observation I made by myself right now. So saying that, I'm going to set it up and do the reveal. Okay, all right. Okay. You know, it's like I don't really find so much excitement in doing these reveals. Not that it's not exciting, it's just that beforehand it felt like a sense of great accomplishment to do the pieces when I do the previous ones, and now it feels like almost like second nature. It's like, yeah, of course we can do it, of course we can do these, and we'll know that we'll get to do these. There's no ambiguity if I'm going to complete, or maybe perhaps well, yeah, it's that. You're at that stage It's like if you're playing any sport, for example, and you score a point, and I'll keep it vague, so there's no specific sport that's described. But if you score a point in any sport, the first one is like, oh wow, you know, I did that, and you're on the top of the world, and things like that. But after a while, yeah, okay, you score a point, you'll score the next one, you'll score the one after. So what is the next goal? So that's what's kind of happening here. I've done this one, I'll do more. But what does it mean for me to do these, and how can this progress? So that's very interesting, I think. Okay, so we got one off. This paper actually doesn't stick itself too greatly to the masking tape, so there's only a minute level of page being stuck to the paper, to the tape, which is kind of ripping up a little bit more than it needs to. It's a very minute level of that, so that's very good. I like that. Just helps to preserve the pure paper that was underneath more. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying in my first initial videos. Okay, last one. And that's it. Here we are. How does that look? Wow. Yeah. I'm actually super pleased how this came out. Here we are. This is a little bit too big for me to do a close-up shot in this session, in the reveal session, so I think I'll end it and then I'll hang it up on the wall and we'll do a little bit of a close-up there. Okay, I'll do exactly that. Here we go. Whew. Number 3. I'm actually very excited. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this down and I'm going to place it into the little archival sleeve. So I will arrange all of that and I'll cut bits and bobs out of the video. So it's a little bit less straight to the point because there's a lot of back of house stuff. Okay. Here we are. So you see it's a little bit more shiny now. So we'll try to I did those little cuts where I zoom in and I give a little bit of a preview of what the details are like throughout the progress. So I haven't done one for this piece, just fell out of my mind to do it once I called it to be finished. But we'll try to do it with this wrap on. I guarantee the quality is not going to be as great, but I'm sure it'll serve the purpose. Okay. So I'm thinking there. That's where I think it should go. I think so. Yeah. Okay, again, lots of back of house, and we'll make the cuts. Okay, here we go. I haven't looked at it from afar. So let's maybe put this somewhere here. Can we? Actually, we have to get this out of the frame. Oh. Okay. And then, like that. Huh. Okay, my cup. Number 3. You see how the frame, the paper, I knew that this was going to be a factor, that I have a pure white paper and then a tanned set here. It's not, to be honest, a big of a deal at all, but it does make a difference. And that's okay, I think. It's sometimes nice to be consistent, but it's sometimes actually nice to just place it and draw it on what is in front of you. It's the drawing that actually matters. But here we are. Okay, it's actually starting to compile a little bit. I do see that one, yikes, with the camera angles, is not visible at all because of the reflection. And that's unfortunate. That is unfortunate. Maybe I'll stand here. I could try maybe switching one of the lamps off. Does that do anything? Nope. Let me try the other one. Well, there's not gonna be a chance you can see anything now, can you? Actually, that's a little bit better, but it kind of leaves me in the dark. Okay, that sets the theme, because we have went into the nature, and as we mentioned throughout, that it was getting dark and it was time to come home. Well, we're home. And there's a little story that's happening here, I think. This one in the middle, and I want to make sure that the glare is not disrupting the story. So the one in the middle is us at home. Then this one is us looking out of the window, looking for the journey to go on to, which we mentioned in the video 6, I believe. And then here, that's us on the journey. So that's, I think, the story. Oh wow, there's no glare. I see, so it's maybe perhaps the angle, but I doubt it. Regardless, doesn't matter. So, number 3 is complete. The story is kind of here written. At this stage in the story where we're trying to say. And what the assumption is that we'll see where the rest of the story takes us. And where is it going to take us? We'll see. And we have an interesting palette here. A lot of the greens, a lot of the reds, and a lot of the blues. So it's a very good mix. Sometimes you can maybe perhaps do the traction of the color palettes, at least the primary color palettes, primary colors, and see what maybe your own intuition might go into that trough where it has not yet climbed into or climbed down into. So you can anticipate what kind of a scene you could be expecting. And that could be done on purpose, intentionally, or, as I mentioned, that could be brought out of you naturally. But I think that's very cool. I've noticed a few things, and the few things I've noticed is that I was very calm and very politely spoken throughout this video. I can reflect back. And I think it's because that notion of I'm able to express myself as I go. There's no urgent desire, as I maybe perhaps started off throughout the video with, to just keep going, keep releasing, because there's so much things backed up. But once I began and once I was in that state where I'm just like on top of it, my whole tone and intonation, I believe that word is, of how I spoke is much more level and peaceful. And that's very interesting, and that's exactly what we wanted to capture from this video series, of how perhaps my mood may change. So it's very interesting, I think, where I was able to just be in the present completely. And then actually the way I started today's session with me finalizing this piece right here was with a little bit more of urgency as well. And that was because I think that I did not get a chance to sit down yesterday. So that may speak to my own personality, that I need to be present. Either it is within art every day, or I need to be progressive. Or you could escalate that into saying that maybe it's just that because I'm being busy, I am very pleasant about myself, so I'm very at peace. Every day I do things and didn't get a chance to receive the same amount of peace. I think it's art, and that just reinforces the thing that I already know. So that is that. And this wall is actually getting a lot more fuller. I want to take a second and just quickly have a glance at it from afar. Yes. At the same time as the ball becomes much larger and also smaller. Smaller because it's getting filled up, but larger because of how much space you still see that you need to fill. So that's very interesting. And we'll see where we go with this. Yeah, very cool, I think. So I'm actually also thinking that if I place an A3 here, and I do believe that we can mix them. Yes, it is an A2. It's half of the well, it's two A3s for the A2. It's just that it would not match if I placed 4 A3s on top. As what I'm trying to say is that you have 2 A2s here and 1 A2 is 2 A3s. But if I split that, there's not going to be this gap in the middle, so it wouldn't be even. So if I am to place anything above or below, and if I want to retain at least the edges to be in line, I have to only use the set out forms, and I can only shift them, but I cannot shift them in sizes. So I couldn't place here 2 A2s on top. That wouldn't work. So I have to place either 2 A3s and 1 A1 or A2, and that's the only way I think that this would make sense if I want to have like a nice clean grid. But that's that's home decoration. That's home decoration. Yes. Okay, I think that's it. As I wanted to say that also, actually, to finalize that thought about me being evidently more at peace, is that I don't also have the urgency to speak a lot of ideas. And I'm actually more concise and more confident with a singular word that I use to describe something, instead of exponentially investing a lot of words into a simple 1 word worth of sentencing to sentence the sentence. There we go. Literally 1 word to describe 3 meanings. But I don't think I could have made a better choice of vocabulary in this moment. But I think that is what we're witnessing. So throughout the escalation of this diary, I anticipate that naturally things will fall into place with expression, with artistic portrayal, and with our practice to maybe edit the video in some forms and ways that is more accessible for watching. So that is actually very cool, I think. So through much error, trial and error, and focus on and progression, I think we're moving towards the correct path. So this is number 7, and next we have number 8. Number 8. Whew, we'll see where that takes us. But I think on that, I will end it here. Okay. Bye bye.